Good morning. Lee Mallett for Mallett Buildings. I like to always start out talking about these home improvement contractors that they're called, but they're really not contractors. What they are is registers. They take $50 and they come up there and they keep a license. It's a bad law. Anybody can get it. They can build up to $75,000. So be aware and be careful of those yo-yos. They're not contractors and they're not licensed. They're registered. And the only reason they're registered is because the law requires us to register them. But what I want to talk about today is we need to talk about the difference in stick frame, post frame, and steel. What is the difference and what are the advantages? Stick frame is what probably 90% of the houses built in the United States are built out of. That's where they actually pour a slab, they put anchor bolts, they put a plate, and they stud up on top of the slab. Stick frame. They actually build the trusses in the field. Most of them are not engineered, and so I have some issues with that, but that's what that is. That's what goes on in the world of the stick frame business. Then we get to steel. Now let's jump back to stick frame. Stick frame, the anchor bolt is the only thing that keeps that frame down. And what happened during Rita, we saw that after 30 or 40 years, those anchor bolts had rusted out. So when the tide hit the houses, it just knocked them off the slabs. So the problem with the anchor bolt, after many, many years, it's going to rust out. Once it rusts out, the only thing keeping the house down on the slab is the weight of the structure itself. So it's very easy for a storm to just push it off the slab. So let's go steel. Steel is pretty much the same thing, except steel is going to put purlins every 3 to 5 feet apart. They're going to put their girts 3 to 5 feet apart, and they're going to put their columns probably 20 feet apart. The typical building in steel is going to have a 1-on-12 or 2-on-12 pitch, which is a no-no in Louisiana. You really need to get to 4-on-12. Anything below 4-on-12 requires taping in between the sheets. So most of your steel buildings you're going to see out there, the pitch is very low. And that pitch, in time, if they don't put tape, will start leaking. Because in Louisiana, it rains, the water just don't get off the roof fast enough. But let's talk about the foundation. Those columns can be as big as they want to be. But the only thing holding that down, once again, is the anchor bolts. So if those anchor bolts deteriorate, you got nothing again when the storm comes. It just pulled them right off the slab too. When you get to post frame, the advantages of post frame over steel and over stick frame are the following. Number one, the standard on the post frame building that we build is a 4-on-12. So you don't run into the problem that steel has with them low pitches. Okay? Now in houses, they're gonna build them all the way to 8-on-12s, all kind of things. That would cost a lot of money. But anyway, standard 4-on-12 post frame, and when we build a building. Our columns are every 10 feet apart, steel's every 20 feet apart, studs are put about 18 inches apart on the outer perimeter of the slab, okay? Our posts are anchored 3 feet in the ground in a post protector, okay? Steel and wood, they're all sitting on top of the slab. We're anchoring in the slab. Why is that an advantage? Imagine headwind hitting all 3 structures. All it's got to do is knock it off the slab. Whereas in post frame, all these posts are anchored 3 feet in the ground, okay? And we put an aircraft cable system where we tie the dead weight of the slab to the post. So if it's a headwind, it'd have to shear all those posts at the same time. Highly hard to do. If that happens, it's usually a tornado. But the cable system ties the dead weight to the post, therefore uplift. The only thing protecting these other 2 structures are those anchor bolts. If those anchor bolts over the years start deteriorating, having problems, and you can imagine when the headwind hits it, it's just got to push that. Whereas in our construction, it's got to shear those posts. So that's the advantages there. Then let's jump to the number of purlins and the number of girts. In steel, they're going to have girts every 3 to 5 feet. I'm going to put a 2x6 every 2 feet. In stick frame, they're going to go vertical, not horizontal, and they're going to go every 2 feet, 18 inches to 2 feet apart. But the problem with that is only the anchor bolts are holding them, okay? So when you go to steel, 3 to 5 feet on the girts and the purlins, and post frame, every 2 feet on the girlins and the purlins. That means you can have twice as many screws holding the sheathing to the post frame versus the steel, because we've got twice as many girts, we have twice as many purlins, and we also have twice as many columns. When you get to the truss system, ours are engineered. Most houses are not. It's just a carpenter who's been building for a long time, and they're pretty good at it, but they're not engineered. Then when you get to steel, they're engineered, but he's going to put his truss system, which is a column going to grow every 20 feet. We're going to put one every 5 feet. So we're going to have 4 times as many truss supporting the roof versus steel. Okay, that's the advantage of post frame over steel and even stick frame. Engineered trusses. Everything's engineered. You go 5 on 12, 6 on 12, and you can actually take a house and build all those trusses, but they're engineered. So that's the advantage of post frame over these other 2 units. The other thing about our construction, it's all treated. Okay, the steel, which is a warranty against rotten fungal decay, steel has that warranty. Stick frame don't. But this is where we beat the steel. I can give you a lifetime warranty against rust on the frame. They can't, because steel rusts. Wood doesn't. The other advantage is if you're going to build a commercial or even a home, if you use steel, you're going to have to put everything in conduit. Whereas in post frame, because it's a wood frame, just like stick frame, you can put everything in Romex. So your cost to electrify the structure is a lot less versus steel. Okay? Steel's going to have chain walls to support the weight, whereas the posts are supporting the weight. Same thing in the stick frame. They've got to have chain walls to support the weight. We transfer the weight to the posts. So the slab is actually floating. There's no weight on the slab itself. It's all transferred to the post. Whereas these 2 structures, everything's sitting on the slab. Okay? One of the most important things that you must do in all 3 structures, and when we sell a building, we tell that to the customer. Understand that the concrete is not the foundation. The pad that you build is the foundation. Okay? A lot of people experience problems with the slabs. It's because they didn't put a proper foundation. The proper way to do it is to degrass it, take all that topsoil out, because topsoil don't pack. Get all that topsoil, get down to the clay pan, then come back on a 60-40, and that needs to be compacted on a 6 to 12 inch lift. So you get a compaction between 96 and 98. That's one of the major problems I see when people build all these structures. They don't get a good compaction. So when you experience a slab issue, it's because you didn't follow the standards of the industry. That is what you're supposed to do. Now, you don't have to, and it costs you less money. But in the long run, you may pay the price. You may be the lucky one that it doesn't happen. Maybe, maybe not. But in my opinion, it's not worth it, because a building or structure with no foundation in time is going to give a lot of trouble. So do it right the first time. Well, anyway, hope I helped in tell you a little bit about the different types of structures today. If you have any questions, feel free to call us at 337-515-2154 or 337-214-0428. And remember, be careful of these guys that call themselves contractors when they're not contractors. Okay? You can get yourself in some trouble.